Guys, I've got to come out and say it. I'm just not a huge fan of the Terminator movies. I'm also not a huge fan of cars driving in the background, but there's not much I can do about that. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of the Terminator movies. See, the thing is, I like the movies well enough, it's just I'm not a big fan of them. When I was growing up, I never got to watch them, so I don't have this built-in awe of giant walking robotic death machines coming to kill me. I don't see the logic in it, because I only saw Terminator after I grew up, and every time I watched that movie, I had a lot of questions circling around in my head. First of all, how come nobody ever ran through a police department screaming for help that somebody was trying to kill them? Never understood that. Oh, sure, maybe the police really couldn't do anything because the bullets always just bounced off of him, but they could have called for backup. They could have gotten, the governor involved, the National Guard, and maybe even escalated up to the military from there, assuming that you get one precinct with at least one cop left who can radio into another precinct and be like, yo, shit's fucked up, can you help us? The second problem is, well, we do calculus in our heads. Okay, every day we have calculus going on in our heads. You don't even realize it. Going from point A to point B and finding the quickest route there, despite the terrain. Like, let's say you're trying to go from point A, and in between point A and B is like a bunch of water, and you think, okay, well, if the water's deep, it would take a really long time to cross it, so I'll just go around it, right? That's pretty simple, but there's a lot of calculus going on in your head. The Terminator could do the same thing. He could find the quickest route from point A to point B, so my idea would be, why not just drive around an army base? Not through it. Through it'll get you killed. But around it, like, say, Area 51. Or something around there. Or even a National Guard installation. Something like that. Something out west. One of the stations out west. A military base or a Marine base. See, the Terminator, knowing he's immune to bullets, would walk right through there and after you. And let me tell you, that would get somebody's attention. Anybody's attention. Hey, you may even get DEFCON down to 3 or 2 there. Whew, let me tell you. So that was one of my biggest problems. But my biggest problem was how the first movie ended. This always bothered me. You know how it ends, right? Or, well, mostly ends. He gets crushed, and then that's pretty much the end, although there's some other stuff after that. How did he get crushed? See, the thing is, bullets aren't just piercing. In fact, bullets don't pierce at all. They sort of and smash. Just like a car would do if it ran into another car. So a bullet would go, it doesn't pierce. So it's constantly doing this throughout. The bullets are constantly doing this to this robotic metallic skeleton all through the movie. Just bam, 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 bam. It's doing crushing impact damage. It's not doing piercing damage. So how come that never manifested itself? Oh yeah, sure, the human skin thing gets completely burned off and blah blah blah, but how come the skeleton part of it never gets damaged in any way from this? Because there was a lot more impact force in those bullets than there was in that crushing machine. See what I'm saying? It bothered me. It really, really bothered me. It's just, I don't know. There's just a lot of things about the Terminator series that I just don't like it. I mean, take every other Terminator movie. The first one, the second one, the third one. He gets pummeled into the ground. He gets punched. In the third one, he's hanging from like a fire truck ladder. And he gets smashed through a building. He should have lost a limb. Maybe his skull should have been impacted somehow. But no, he was like invulnerable. I don't like that. Speaking of things I don't like, I also don't like the NES game, which, even though my parents never let me watch the movies, they did let me play the game. I don't know whether I should thank them or hate them for that. I don't know. Here's Terminator on the NES until we win. You know from the moment you put this game into the NES that it's pretty bad. The graphics are horrific, the controls are dreadful, and the sound is an abysmal loop. Wait a minute. Radical Entertainment? Haven't I heard that name before? Oh yeah, they made Bebe's Kids! That's not the only abortion of a game they're responsible for. Ho ho ho, no. The list is quite amazingly long. The Terminator, Mario is Missing, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Mario's Time Machine, Wayne's World, Bebe's Kids, Beavis and Butthead, Brett Hull, Hockey 95, Grid Runner, Independence Day, Jackie Chan, Stuntmaster, Dark Summit, Hulk, The Simpsons, Road Rage, and Hit and Run, Scarface, Prototype. These guys just keep pumping out the most basic licensed games they can and keep raking in the cash, don't they? And you thought LJN was the bane of your childhood existence. I could sit here and explain what exactly is wrong with this game, but that would take about 20 minutes and would involve a lot of cursing. Instead, I'll just cut the complaints to this short list. The graphics are horrible 8-bit puke. The sound is miserable, a short 4-second loop. The controls are absolutely miserable, and this is my biggest complaint. While the graphics and sound can be ignored, and believe me, play this game long enough and you'll learn to ignore them too, the controls are impossible to ignore. They're wretched. Jumping takes forever thanks to the 2 frames of animation, and shooting is even worse with 3 frames. In other words, if you're gonna try and time your jumps, good luck. Oh, and collision detection? Yeah, it sucks. Ignoring all of that, there are some tricks you can take to save Sarah Connor. First things first, learn how the damn shooting controls work. For the most part, they're easy to work with. You fire forward. However, there are a couple of kinks in the system. You can't fire while jumping, so you have to wait until you're on the ground. Second, you can aim your shots while crouching. You have to press forward and then press back on the D-pad to aim your gun high or low. It'll help you get through some tough sections of the game where it seems like it's impossible to get through without dying. The collision detection in this game is really off. Essentially, your body actually consists of 3 boxes. One is the body box, which encompasses your legs and your body, and a couple of pixels on either side. The second box is your head, and it's about the same size as your face on screen. The third is the most annoying, however. It keeps track of where your feet are in the game. The box doesn't cover your feet, though. It covers the space between your feet. That means don't pay any attention to your feet, but pay attention to the black space between them. Jumping is a pain in the ass. I'll put it to you like this. Don't bother jumping in place. Instead, you need to jump with momentum. Running forward is the only way you can get anywhere with any jump. Oh, but don't forget about the collision detection, please. If you hit an enemy without getting punched or shot, you won't take damage, but you sure as hell won't keep moving forward, which sometimes means you end up bumping into an enemy and knocked into a pit of death. Alright, let's talk the game itself. It's actually not as hard as you may think. At first, you might think that the game is impossible, especially in the later levels, but it turns out that the game relies on a lot of tricks to kill you, and once you figure them out, the game's actually a breeze. Don't believe me? Well, I can only prove it, so on to level 1. The game starts off in a sewer where you need to avoid green slime, the Terminator, and fat guys shooting God knows what at you. Your goal here is very simple, just get to the end of the stage. This stage is more like a way for you to get used to the controls and the platforming. The trick here is to not rush to the end of the stage. Instead, take your time, pick up every grenade you can see, and then move forward. The first real problem you'll run into are the ground-mounted turrets. These things are a pain in the ass to deal with if you don't know what to expect. The first couple of turrets are easily dealt with just by ducking and shooting, and sometimes aiming your gun down. But there's a series of turrets that will haunt your nightmares. You'll run through this section of the level thinking there's absolutely no way to get by it without taking a ton of damage. Not true. The idea here is that you've got to be fast with your grenades and your gun. Run up to the first turret, destroy it with a grenade, then run forward, duck, and fire at the next turret. Running forward from there, you'll have to destroy the next 2 turrets quickly if you don't want to take a lot of damage, which means using your grenades to take them out. After that, just move forward and take out the remaining turrets, then move to the next part of the game. For this part, you need to outrun an airship and a giant robot. I'm not gonna lie, this part is really hard if you don't know the trick. Move the truck forward, then brake hard and repeat until you manage to shoot down the airship. No, really, the only trick here to avoid getting hit is to move forward then brake hard. You'll avoid almost every shot by the enemy and get through the level unharmed. The same holds true for the robot. The truck doesn't take any damage if you hit it, only if it hits the lasers. Since the AI in this game is so dumb, you can just keep moving forward and stopping hard to avoid getting killed. Once you shoot down both the airship and the giant robot, you'll be in another sewer level. This next section is unnecessarily hard. Remember the talk we had about collision detection earlier? Well, pay close attention to the space between your feet. As for the spikes, don't really pay that much attention to them at all. The hitbox detection is such that you've got enough space to stand on the ledge right next to the spike without taking any damage. The real challenge here is to get up past the jumps. You want to know how evil this game is? The developers knew that the landing mechanic was broken, so they intentionally made this section of the game just to fuck with you. After that, it's really only a matter of moving to the left. Oh, and jump some more. Trust me, this is only the start of this game's bullshit. Once you reach the top, you'll finish the first level. Now, welcome to Los Angeles. Hey, guess what? You've got no weapons. Instead, you've got to punch and jump your way through dogs, punk rockers, and the cops, who, instead of talking to you and trying to assess the situation, immediately draw their weapons and shoot at you. That's right, the cops don't ask any questions, they just shoot you. The developers, they got this all wrong. The Terminator does not take place in New York City. Fighting things in the past takes some strategy. First, the dogs. Don't fight them. No, I'm serious. Out of all the enemies in this game, the dogs are the single most deadliest thing you will encounter. The Terminators have nothing on them. The dogs can literally kill you in one bite. Even the Terminator takes 2 punches to knock your head off. As for the punk rockers, I don't really know if they're awake. Sometimes they swing their bats, sometimes they don't. You can literally just walk up to them and punch them in the face. The cops. Let me tell you something about these pricks. They're ridiculously easy to get by. Seriously, if you've ever been killed by these pricks, you're going to feel like the dumbest bastard on the planet once you find out how to avoid their bullets. Oh, you could try to time their shots and jump over them. Oh, you could try to bum rush them and take them out with punches. Oh, you could try avoiding them, but in some sections, taking them out is the only way forward. No. You know how you take these guys out? You duck. I don't know if this is some sort of political statement against the police in general, but the cops in this game are too dumb to aim. There are a couple of problem points in this level. The first are the doors. I think they're escalators, but you climb up them like they're ladders. It's very strange. It's also very difficult because you absolutely must be in the right spot to go up. With a dog chasing you down, it can get difficult. There's a section in this level where you'll be able to basically skip everything by taking the top pathway. That's a good idea in theory. However, there's a big problem here. If you move too fast, the enemy at the bottom of the screen will fall off the screen, and another enemy will spawn, you guessed it, on the top path. That's not a problem when the enemy you've got to face is a cop, but when it's a dog of instant death, yeah, you don't want to fuck around with that. So you've basically got to do a weird stutter step thing to get through the rest of the level. Anyway, this takes you to the roof, which is just more basic platforming. The cops here should be easier for you now that you know how to take them out. Oh yeah, when I was recording the game footage, I didn't know that you had a duck to take out the cops, so this section was incredibly difficult until I figured out that tidbit of information. There's one section here with a couple of punks and an electric field. The easiest way to get around this is to go under the fence, get the heart, and jump to the left. Otherwise, the punk rockers might knock you off the platform and you die. Once you get past that level, you get to drive around Los Angeles while trying to avoid the Terminator. This is probably one of the more difficult sections of the game to get through for 2 reasons. You get 2 bars of life, no matter what. Do you have all 6 lives? Well, too bad. You only get 2 bars of health. The second problem? Oh, God, this section is the single most confusing thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, I get what's going on here. You're being chased down by the Terminator in a car. That's cool. What I don't understand is the complete lack of control you have over the car, or the fact that only bullets hurt your car, and driving straight into, oh, I don't know, say, a house doesn't do anything but immediately turn you 90 degrees and force you to go horizontal instead of vertical. Anyway, you see the timer in the corner? Yeah, that's actually not a timer, but a counter. That's how many units you've got to survive. I'm hesitant to say city blocks here because it's actually not the number of blocks. I don't even know what it's counting. It just adds to my confusion. It's not intersections either. See, sometimes the intersections line up with the counter, but when you play it again, sometimes nothing lines up with the counter. I just don't get it myself. It's not even like a timer counter either, because it stops if you stop. Anyway, the whole stop-and-go pattern thing from the airship and the robot scene works okay here. It's not ideal, but it gets the job done. That takes you to the police station, where despite it burning down to the ground, the cops are more concerned with shooting your ass than getting out of the burning building. Let me tell you something, this section can go fuck itself. I've never, in my life, had to deal with a more bullshit excuse of a level than this one. The whole idea is this. You've got to get to the upper left corner of the screen, but that's almost impossible because of the huge gap in the floor. So, you've got to find something to fix the gap and get out. That's cool, except for a few problems. First and foremost, this level is a maze. Much like Baby's Kids, but unlike Baby's Kids, you don't have a timer. You also don't have a hot-cold meter, so good luck figuring out where you have to go. Second, there are actually hallways you can walk down, which leads to a second map. Third, if you get lost in the game, it literally dumps your ass into a pit of death. No, I'm not kidding you, that just happened. While Baby's Kids set you back to the beginning if you screwed up enough, this game just fucking kills you. Jesus. Basically what you have to do here is find a gold brick, bring it back to the large pit, throw it, and it'll magically seat itself in the middle of the pit where you can now jump over it. No, I'm not going to explain how to get through the maze. Get yourself a beer and a ton of lives because you're going to die. A lot. The next section, oh, it's another driving section. Only there are a couple of minor differences. The Terminator is on a motorcycle, which is much faster and agile than the car he was in previously. He does much more damage when he rams into you. Figure that the fuck out. There are no cars on the road to avoid, but the streets were apparently designed by a goddamn lunatic. You've got to survive for 52 ticks on the counter. Yeah, that's more than double the original meter, I know. You still, despite the number of lives you've got, only have 2 chances at this, so, I don't know, good luck. If you manage to get past that section, and believe me, it's going to take a lot of luck for you to do that, you'll get to face off against the Terminator in the final level of the game. This section can be a bit confusing, so let me walk you through it. Go to the right. Make your way over to the right. Take the bottom path and head to the right. Grab the magical gold brick, but now, here's the trick. Go to the left. When you're at the pit, jump on the little platform that you can barely see. It's kind of reddish off color and it blends into the background really well. Thank you very much, Radical Entertainment. Jump on it, then use your gold brick that will magically seat itself in place so you can jump up and then head over to the right. When you go over to the right, you can then pick up a key. Then you go over to the left. Make your way all the way to the left. You know, at the start of the game where there's a big pit, go there. Now it's your job to not only jump over that pit, but jump into the exact right pixel-perfect location in the upper right corner of the screen so you can use the key to unlock the door that leads to the next section of the game. I don't remember Kyle Reese doing this. In fact, I'm pretty sure I would have remembered him jumping up into the air and unlocking a door, opening it, and getting in, all while in a mid-air jump. In fact, that would have been friggin' awesome. There are no tricks here. All of this comes down to good old positioning and timing. Oh yeah, this is also a horrible game, so don't be surprised when you make it to the very top of the screen, only to fall straight down and not actually get to the next portion of the game. Once you manage to get in the exact right spot, you'll be at the final stage of the game. Your goal is simple. Get to the far left side of the screen, lure the Terminator there, and trick him onto the crushing machine. You know, it's interesting. I don't recall Kyle being the one that lured the Terminator into the machine of death. Make your way to the left. You don't actually need to lure the Terminator here. Just make sure you move to the left and then force him to spawn when you're ready to lure him to his death. Once you're at the machine, you need to be aware of a couple of things. The Terminator will not jump unless he is right behind you. The compactor is fast, and you'll probably get crushed a couple of times before you get the timing right. There's a pit of death directly next to the machine, so if your jumping is off, you're dead. How do you actually do it? Well, while you're kiting the Terminator, you've got to crouch next to the machine until he's right next to you. From there, you've got to be quick or be dead. Jump up on the machine, move to the left, and get the hell off of it without falling into the instant death pit on the left. You know, I've got to admit that even though this is a really difficult game because of its controls, it's a pretty cool way to end it. I mean, it's really inventive. You know, for that ending, I'd have to give Radical Entertainment some credit. Never mind.